In this episode of the Church Security Roll Call, we're going to be discussing protecting children from abuse. Stay tuned. Hi, this is Chris with Sheepdog Church Security, and this is your Church Security Roll Call. Today we're going to be discussing the article, Wolves and Lambs, Threats to Our Children. If you'd like to read that article, go to our website, sheepdogchurchsecurity.net, and look under the News tab. So let's begin in the Bible as we always do. This verse is Psalm 72, verse 4, and it reads like this. He shall judge the poor of the people, he shall save the children of the needy, and he shall break in pieces the oppressor. I love that last part. Break in pieces the oppressor. So we're going to cover a lot of news stories here. And the reason we're going to do more than we normally do is because I want to show you just how frequent child abuse occurs. Now, if you follow us on Facebook, you probably see, 1, 2, 3 of these stories every single week. And while that's just anecdotal evidence, the truth of the matter is there's so many other child abuse situations occurring in the church or affecting people in the church that we're not even tracking. And so let's cover a couple here. First category is kind of the abduction category. First one is in Ripplemead, Virginia, May 3rd, 2021. A woman and her boyfriend abducted a 2-year-old boy from a church in Ripplemead, Virginia. This was after failed attempts at 2 other churches where she went to the nurseries and said, Larry is ill, and she came to take the boy home. Both times they said nobody by that name was here. At Ripplemead Church, she simply walked into the nursery, pointed at a boy, and said she was here to take him home. Evidence at the couple's home indicated that they intended to kidnap other children. The prosecutor indicated that the motive may have been illegal abduction. Surveillance images inside the church help identify the suspect and prove that she took the boy out of the building. The church said it's considering to prevent future abductions. We've said so many times, we have to have very solid check-in and check-out procedures. There are a lot of computer systems out there. The low-tech or even the high-tech is usually a token system. And the way a token system works is simply this. You turn in a child, there's some sort of number or barcode if you're high-tech, or maybe it's a pager. Who knows what it is, but you give that person checking in the child a token of some sort. And then the only way to get that child out is by presenting the token. The reason this can be good is, let's say, mom checks them in, but she has her teenage daughter check them out. Then it's about that token. We believe that the mom handed that token off to that sibling or either the other spouse. There's more to that. There's more ways to be secure. It's kind of like having a list of people that could sign out the kid. But that's for another time. But basically, the church said here it's considering measures to prevent future abductions. I surely hope that they are. Next one. Carter County, Oklahoma, November 21st, 2021. So you can see these are all just last year. And this one just a few months ago. A child was abducted from a rural church. Witnesses called 911 and gave them the license number of the kidnapper's vehicle along with a description. The suspect was stopped by deputies in the next county and the child was rescued. So I think a lot of us sometimes we think, well, surely not our church. Well, here, just last year, 2 successful abductions from strangers from churches. So That check-in, check-out procedure is no joke. We have to have secure children sections, and we have to have a proper check-in, check-out procedure. Physical abuse. All right, this one is Beaver Creek, Ohio, October 8th, 2021. Once again, just about 3-4 months ago. A student who showed up with bruises told classmates that she was being beaten at home. They told the teacher, who reported it to school administrators, so this public school, who then reported it to authorities. After this, the mother decided to withdraw the daughter from school for homeschooling. The girl came back to school on her own, then ran into the woods when the mother came for her. That's where officers found her. She told of the beatings of 4 adults. The warranted search of the home provided evidence of the beatings, included studded belts matching the marks on her body. Now, this is a public school situation, but we should not in any way think that this could not occur at our church, where we see evidence of ongoing abuse, and to be able to intervene on that child's behalf. Even if the parents then say, hey, we're never going back to that church again, we still follow up, we still report the information to the police and let them take care of it. But this happens, and we have to be alert. Sexual abuse. We have a number of stories here. West Lafayette, Indiana, spring of 2019 to March 2020. For almost a year, a teen boy sexually molested children of families in his church. When the pastor found out about one incident, he tried to resolve the issue between the families, but did not report it to authorities as required by Indiana law. It turns out the boy was related to the pastor. Not only this, but when the elders found out, they kept the whole incident confidential, even when other incidences were reported to them. So we're talking multiple reports, and the elders, the board members, are still sitting on it. As many as 15 children and youth were molested through unwanted and inappropriate touches. Eventually, this was reported not only to the authorities, but to the Presbyterian and Synod. An investigation resulted in the denomination calling for the pastor and elders of the congregation to resign. I've heard this and I've seen this too many times. Churches want to cover up this type of behavior. I don't know what it is. It's their instinct. It's their desire. I don't know if they think they're protecting the church. I don't know if they think they're protecting the denomination. I don't know if they're protecting the Christian faith. I don't know what they're protecting. But the thing is this. Too many of these types of reports exist weekly, as I've told you. We've seen this explode in the media. Now, I'm not saying the media is a good source. You know how I feel about them. But at the end of the day, this stuff is everywhere all the time, and we're still making the same mistake. We think somehow our church, our congregation is somehow different. And in this case, why are we always protecting the offender? Why is it that we say, we want this offender to be redeemed for reconciliation? I get that. But what about the 15 victims? Why are we not thinking about them? Why are we always focused on the offender? I would say that the 15 children that were molested by this teenager need the church to act in a very specific way in order to help them to get through what they've gone through and be reconciled to Christ, to be reconciled and healed, and that's more important than that one offender. Now, I'm not saying, I want to be careful in this because, I come from the military, and I've been to war twice. And I understand the concept of sacrificing a platoon to save the company, or sacrificing a company to save the battalion. I understand the numbers game probably more than many other people out there. I get that. But in this case, it's we want to save the offender, obviously, but at the same time, we have 15 children that need to be saved. So will I sacrifice an offender to save the 15 victims? Yes, I absolutely would. And I hope that you do too. All right, next story. Oklahoma City, September 22nd, 2021. Are you noticing that all of these are labeled just last year? There's so many stories out there. If you care to know how frequent this is, you can Google it. You can do an internet search. You're going to find more stories than you care to read. It'll probably cause you to get ill. It's that bad. So Oklahoma City, 2022, December 21st, a nine-year-old boy told his father that a man came to where the kids were waiting for the school bus and touched him inappropriately down the backside. And this was not the first time. The father decided to do something about it. He took the day off from work, parked his car close to the bus stop, took out his camera, and waited. Sure enough, when children had gathered, a man jogging in sweatpants ran by the school bus stop and next to the corner. He turned and ran back. Then he came to the bus stop. He stopped and approached the son from behind. He put his hand on the boy's back and moved it down past his waist. The watching father began recording video and called 911 as soon as the man stopped by the kids. When his boy was touched, he got out of the car, ran to the bus stop, and confronted the man. A fight ensued, and the molester went down, suffering head injuries. The man was arrested and charged with sexual imposition and child endangerment. And he was a pastor of a church. The molester was a pastor from a church. All right. So before we continue, I want you to know about this week's download. It's called A Code to Live By, Child Care Code for Conduct. And what it basically is you download this, and it has a little signature block on it. And it has kind of commitments, if you will, a code of conduct for anyone working with children at your church. Now, you could use this two ways. You could just print it off and have all your child care workers, or you could print it off and use it as a template for what you might want to write. So it might be different, but it gives you kind of a starting point. So make sure you go below in the links, click on that, take a look at it. I think you're going to like it. All right, so I need to give you a couple of disclaimers. Disclaimer number one: if you have been a victim of abuse, then this is going to be a very hard program for you to watch. And so just remember, you have a control over the pause button, the stop button. You could stop watching this, listening to this at any time. But this is going to be hard for you because you know more than anyone else just how much damage this type of treatment of children can produce. The second disclaimer is this: I have to be more blunt than usual, and so I may use strong language here. I may state things in a way that make you very uncomfortable, I am going to upset people. It's not only the abused, I'm going to upset you. I'm going to upset you. And I hate to say this, but that's exactly what I need to do. I need to shake some of you. I need to shake you, and I need to shake you hard. Because the reality of what's going on is so disturbing and so upsetting to me that I can't help but to shake you in the hopes that, I don't know if you feel like I do, but what if we could save one child? One child. That's all I'm talking about. One child. Then wouldn't that be worth it? Wouldn't that be worth me upsetting you just a little bit? To make you uncomfortable? To make you see the truth of what's going on? And our eyes are just completely blinded to it? So, once again, you have the option. You can stop following me. You can unsubscribe. You can do all kinds of stuff. You could even go online and call me horrible names. It's completely in your hands. But I have to do what I have to do in order to protect kids. And I'm hoping you feel the same way. So let's talk about the prevalence of abuse. Okay, so for you gun guys, I love you guys. I really do. Don't get me wrong. I'm Second Amendment. Boom, all the way. But you know what? Murder is not the number one threat against children in the church. It's not. The active shooter coming in and blasting people and you showing up in the nick of time to neutralize the threat and be the hero. I get the Hollywood sexiness of all of that. It's like, look at me, I'm a great guy. If that's what you're all about when it comes to church security, you've lost it. You missed it. You've completely missed it. There's so much more. Child abuse is everywhere in the church. It's sexual abuse. It's physical abuse. It's all over the place. Sexual abuse is coming from child care workers, teachers, group leaders, pastors. It's all over the place, to include strangers and intruders. And so we have to be focused. Okay, have the gun. I love it. I carry a gun. I have a SIG. And I carry it. I carry extra magazines. I have pepper spray. I have all kinds of stuff. I'm ready, just like you are. And we could argue who's ready more, who's done more tactical training, who can put rounds on targets, who can take care of the less lethal situations. The big guy, I'm in the country, so these guys throw frickin' bales of hay all day long into a loft. They're big, muscular, monster guys. Are you prepared to take them down? I am. And so, but I'm also saying this, is that's a fraction of my responsibilities. A fraction. We have to protect our kids. I would even argue to say this. Protecting our children from abuse, sexual, physical, all the other types, is more probable and more important than your gun-toting, tactically, capable person. You need to change your perspective. Yes, go to the range, train, all that stuff. I'm not taking away from any of that. But you are worth this much. And we need you to be worth this much. Are you able, are you willing to take the steps necessary to be worth this much? I appreciate this much. I need this much from you. So like I said, I'm going to upset some of you. Next thing, Protestant versus Catholic. How do I even address this? A lot of us, and maybe I should say this differently. Some of us, based on my experience on Facebook, we regularly post articles about different pastors, youth ministers, volunteers that are molesting kids. When it is a Protestant church, the Catholics say, look at the Protestants, how horrible they are. When it's the Catholic, then it's the same, it's the opposite, right? It's like, oh, Catholic priests, all that kind of stuff. Do you know that the statistics for child abuse and molestation is almost negligible between Catholic and Protestant? I know you would like to think that somehow your denomination is above reproach. I get that. I've been there. I've been in different churches. I am, as you guys know, I'm a Christian. And I believe in the Christian God. I believe in Christ. I believe in God the Father. But we, as Christians and followers of God, have a responsibility that cannot be ignored. If your religion, your church, your denomination is superior to everybody else, then prove it. Prove it. Serve your God, and I'm speaking very secular here, serve your God the way you think that he needs to be served. Do you know that child molesting and all the other problems that, plague society and the church is equal across the board? It's Catholic, it's Protestant, it's Judaism, it's Islam, it's Hinduism, it's Buddhism. It goes on and on and on. What it really comes down to is this: will you serve? And will you do more? I don't even know how to say this. And I know I'm upsetting all of you, and I'm going to get so much hate mail, and I am going to get so many evil comments, and or I shouldn't say that, upset comments about this. But feel free to prove me wrong. Feel free. I will be more than happy to retract anything I'm saying. What I'm saying is simply this: children are being abused, children are being molested, and I can't see any difference between the secular and the religious, and from denomination to denomination. And you know why that is? I think, in my humble opinion, is because everybody has chosen to turn their eye to it. I can tell you personally, it hurts me. It absolutely hurts me when it comes to child abuse. I had a family member molested by another family member. So if you're wondering why I'm so passionate about this, it's because I've been there, I've seen it. And so all I'm asking you to do, you can hate everything I've said. You can reject my statements about different religions and different denominations. I get that. I've been there, I've seen that movie, and you could probably tear me apart. Because quite honestly, I'm not your pastor. I'm not your theological instructor. This is something that you have to deal with, that you have to look inside and decide, how are you going to address this problem? You know, either it be a small church or a large church. I'll tell you, statistically, I'm having problems speaking today. If you have 3 females and you have 4 males, you have 2 victims. Okay? So if your church is 7 people with 3 females and 4 males, you have 2 victims. What does that tell you? That tells you you have to be alert to this. You have to take action. Now I hope and pray, I really hope and pray that this is not something that's going on in your church. But you're a sheepdog. You don't have the luxury to sit back and think that somehow all of this is going to be okay. You don't have that luxury. I'm sorry to tell you that. You're a sheepdog. The sheep are grazing. They're living their lives. They're making babies, little lambs. They're whatever they do. I'm not a shepherd, but you know what I'm talking about. They're living their lives. You're a sheepdog. And you can love and care for the sheep. And at the same time, you're smelling the wind. You got your ears propped up. You're paying attention. And you're looking for the wolf that cares nothing at all for the sheep. So, all right. I'm sorry. That's all very heavy. You know what? Maybe I'm not sorry. Maybe all I have to say is this, is I want to challenge you to be more, to do more, and to really pay attention. So before I finish, I got a couple things. Okay, signs of abuse. I want to be practical. I want to give you some stuff where you're actually looking for that you can apply this week, this service. Okay, signs of abuse. Is the child or youth afraid of certain people? If that's the case, make notice of that. Is it the mom? Is it the dad? Is it the ministry leader? Is it the child care worker? What's going on? If they're afraid of that person, we need to, perk up. Why is this going on? Does the child or youth avoid certain people in uniforms, holding certain positions, such as guard, police officer, or minister? Paying attention to that. Maybe it's just kind of a theme, right? Where it's like, I don't want to go to school, or I don't want to, whatever it is. If there's a theme, then we need to be paying attention to that. Injuries. If we observe injuries, probably not us as safety team members, but maybe child care workers. Do we have injuries that are not easily explained? Next one. Is the child withdrawn, depressed, unresponsive? These type of behavioral things that kind of be like, okay, what's going on here? Is this the temperament of the child, or is there more behind it? Does the child know more about sex than is usual for their age? This is a huge alert, right? So most kids of certain ages should not know about certain sexual activity. And so if the child does know that, and maybe the child is sharing with other kids, and you're just like, how should this child, or how could this child know about that activity? It's unnatural. It's not right. And so we need to look into that. Does the child have difficulty walking or sitting? This could be actual abuse and trauma in injury to their groin and to their behind. And so if this is going on, it could be an indication that abuse has occurred. And then finally, Has he or she become hostile towards specific persons? I know of a person that was being molested by family members, and this person was regularly dropped off for babysitting, if you will, at this house. And this person started to throw temper tantrums and resisted going into this house. Now the parents disregarded it and the abuse continued. So we need to be paying attention to that kind of stuff. We really do. All right, so it's time to cut you some slack. I'm going to ask you this. Take a deep breath. I need to. Okay. Take a deep breath. Meditate for a minute. Relax. And let's boil this down again. Obviously, without a doubt, we need to intervene on the behalf of children in our churches that may be being abused by family members, by somebody outside the church. Maybe it's a teacher, maybe it's a coach, maybe it's somebody in the church, a ministry leader, a pastor. And we need to just take a deep breath again. Think about what the signs and symptoms are. Focus in on that and keep our awareness level up. And develop the plan necessary of what we're going to do when little Johnny, little Sally shows signs of abuse. That's what we need to do right now. And if you can do that, then you're part of the solution. If you're unable to do that, maybe it's because past trauma. I get that. Sometimes the only thing we can do for our own protection, mental and spiritual health, is to slam our eyes shut. We have to do it. It's so ugly. It's too much. Our heart and our mind are overwhelmed by this. But for those of you who can, if you may, if you can, if somehow you're able to break through all this emotion, you're able to just break through and start to be aware. You're a hero. You're next level prepared person. And God bless you. I mean, really, God bless you. All right. Deep breath again. Before I let you go, we have our child protection course. We have our certification. We have all that kind of stuff. And you know what? Right now, talking about it seems like I'm almost cheapening everything I said. So, in that case, time out. I'm going to ask you this. If you like this video, like it, subscribe, share it, comment. I'm ready. I quite frankly, if you're mad, I get it. Write your comment, and I'll do my best to de-escalate the situation and make you feel better. But there's part of me that says maybe my job is not to make you feel better. My job is to give you information and then hope that you're able to process that information and translate it into policies and procedures that protect kids at your church. So other than that, thank you so much for joining us today. And hey, let's be careful out there. This program is made for informational purposes only and should not be taken as legal advice.